Hello BSS, welcome back to my channel, or if you are new here then just welcome. Hi, my name is Brenda. I do paranormal videos here on my channel, so if that is something that you are interested in, please consider subscribing down below and turn on your post notifications so you do not miss when I post another video like this one. Now with all of that being said, let's go ahead and jump right into today's video. Alright guys, quickly before I get into the video, obviously just gonna address that I am once again not in my regular filming area. I did have to change it up and film somewhere else because I have not had any time to film at home. So I decided why not take this opportunity where I have a little bit of free time and film here at this location that I'm not gonna say on camera. But anyway, that is why obviously this isn't my usual setting and I don't have my microphone on me, so the audio of this video might not be the best or the same as in my other videos. But anyway, I hope that you guys are ready for today's folk tale that I will be talking about, or urban legend, whichever one of the two you prefer to call these stories once I do tell them to you. I am going to be telling you two today, and they are both based in Mexico. It has been a minute since I have done one of these, so I'm excited to share these ones with you. Of course, I'm going to be reading off of a little script here that I have for myself from some articles that I gathered together, so I hope that is okay with you guys, because I know I don't have very many videos where I'm doing stories off of the top of my head because I have a really bad memory and I have a really hard time memorizing literally any facts. I've tried before, but it always takes me a little bit of extra time, and I hope that you guys don't mind the change in setting and lighting and audio and all of the things. Hopefully for my next video that will be at the end of, or the last week of December, I will be able to film in my regular setting, which is in my room. And anyway, sorry, I've been blabbing too much now. Let's go ahead and get into it. And since I will be scrolling on here up and down, I feel like the lighting might change a little bit. Okay, so the first legend or folklore that we are going to be talking about today is about the ghost bus. Okay, that'll give you a little bit of an idea what this is going to be about. Alright, and it says, the Mexican ghost bus is a ghost story about a dangerous mountain road in Mexico and an accident that killed everyone who was traveling in the bus. Today, if you are traveling in Mexico between the city of Toluca and the town of Iztapan de la Sal, there is a lovely highway that makes the journey quick and easy. However, years ago, anyone making that journey was forced to travel along a dangerous and winding mountain road. On one side of the narrow road, there was a steep, vertical rock, and on the other side, there was a sheer drop. One evening, many years ago, a bus departed from Iztapan de la Sal, as usual, making the familiar journey to Toluca. It was an overnight trip, so the passengers on the bus took the opportunity to get some much-needed sleep. When the bus reached the base of the mountain, it started the slow climb up the slope without any problems. Most of the passengers had made this trip many times, and they noticed nothing out of the ordinary. When the bus reached the highest point on the mountain, it began to rain, and the driver negotiated the dangerous curves as the road descended. Some very serious accidents had occurred on this stretch of road, and many of them had been fatal. The bus began its descent in heavy rain, and the road was slick and wet. The passengers became a little nervous when they realized that the bus was picking up speed. This was unusual. Some of them called out to the driver, but he didn't respond. The bus got faster and faster, and it became more and more frightening. The bus was traveling at such a high speed that it was impossible to control. In the blink of an eye, they reached the curve and the driver swerved. They skidded off the cliff and plunged into the void. It tumbled down the rocky slope and smashed into the jagged rocks below. Many of the passengers were killed instantly in the crash. Others lay unconscious and bleeding in the wreckage. Then the bus caught fire, and within minutes it was completely consumed by the flames. Nobody heard the chilling cries of the surviving passengers, and they all died in the most dreadful and horrible way imaginable. Later that night, the police located the site of the crash and called an ambulance. Unfortunately, it was no use. There were no survivors. The bodies of some passengers lay strewn about on the sharp rocks. The bodies of others lay charred inside the smoking wreckage. Ever since that day, people have reported seeing the old bus traveling late at night on the road from Iztapan de la Sal to Toluca. They say that if you hold out your hand, the bus will stop for you. The doors will open when you approach it. You will notice that the bus is old but still in good condition. Even if the bus seems to be full, there will always be one empty seat. If you sit down, you will feel a strange emptiness in the pit of your stomach. You realize that something is very wrong. Despite the late hour, nobody on the bus is asleep. All of the men, women, and children are wide awake, staring straight forward, but nobody is saying a word. There is a heavy silence. A few minutes later, the bus conductor will walk down the aisle checking tickets. You prepare the money to pay for your ticket, but the conductor just passes you by. You arrive at Toluca smoothly, but it's after midnight. The driver stops the bus before arriving at the bus terminal. Then he turns and tells you that you have to get off. The journey is not finished and you don't understand why, but you obey. While everyone else stays seated, you get up and walk down the aisle. As you pass by the driver, you attempt to pay for your ticket. He waves away your money. "There is no charge," says the driver. "Go now and don't look back, or you will never leave this bus." Those who obey, who do not look behind, hear the sound of the door closing and the bus engine starting up and driving off. The disobedient who turn around will see that the bus is really a charred wreck. Inside, the burnt skeletons that line the seats are staring silently through the windows. The bus will disappear and you will die in an accident a few days later. It is said from that moment on, your ghost will be sitting in the bus. If by chance you travel to Iztapan de la Sal one day, do not risk journeying to Toluca at night. There is a chance that you will meet the ghost bus. If you do, make sure you obey the driver's instructions. Otherwise, you'll be condemned to travel on that bus for all eternity. Okay, I thought that one was a really fun folk tale, and I feel like it would be so much fun to have somebody from this area tell you this kind of story and warn you about either traveling to Toluca at night, or if you're asking for directions in Mexico or something like that, or asking which bus takes you there, or trying to hitchhike your way there, or whatever it may be. I feel like it would be a very eerie and just overall creepy thing to be told by a local, especially because they know what they're talking about, you know? Even though who knows where they got any of this information from. Of course, if anybody else experienced it and they just walked away from it, of course it would be the weirdest thing to experience while riding on a bus, just getting kicked off and then having the driver instruct you to get out and not look back, and then having people either do as they were told or look back and see that they had been riding in a burnt down bus with a bunch of dead people in it. Super eerie, super scary, and overall just a very fun urban legend. I really enjoyed that personally. Of course, very sad that if this was a real thing that happened, if there was actually an accident that occurred there, which I don't doubt that there were because of how windy this road was. So yeah, let me know what you guys thought about that story and whether you would have gotten on this random bus, because of course you wouldn't think twice about it, right? You wouldn't question it unless you were in Iztapa de la Sal. What the hell was it called? You see, I told you I have a bad memory. I like read it this whole entire time and I still couldn't remember the name of the city. Iztapan de la Sal. Don't go on the bus. Alright, so this next one is pretty similar. It's about a different kind of road. So I guess we're doing road related ones. That's what I'm gonna have to title it. Or something along the lines. But you guys know that as Mexicans, or in Mexican culture, we have so many different legends. Our collection of legends is so vast that we could categorize a lot of these into different little categories and have a good amount to fill these up. You know, you could have legends about cars, about women in white, about railroads, about highways, freeways, crossroads. There's so many different things, and you could most likely end up finding a story to fit into that category. And we have so many, you know, La Llorona being one of our biggest ones, Callejón del Diablo. We have so many different ones, and that's why I really enjoy making these videos, because I have a lot of options to choose from. And these two just happen to both be about roads, and I hadn't even realized it until I was reading it again right now, and I was like, oh yeah, I didn't put two and two together. But so here is the next one. Although the story does not have a specific name, it is known as the legend of La Rumorosa. Let's remember that this is how this road that goes from Sierra de Juarez to Tecate is known, with a stretch of 20 kilometers of curves. Originally, this route was both to go up and down, but today it already has two separate paths to avoid accidents, with 2 lanes for each direction. So basically, it used to be just one road, one single road to use to go one way up and one way down. And so I guess basically, if there was 2 cars going opposite directions, they had to like make room for themselves or make room for each other. That way they wouldn't collide. But now in present day, they have separated the roads and expanded the specific area. Part of the charm is the landscape, as if it came out of a movie. In addition to the curves as such, especially for those who like to drive. Contrary to this, it represents an important risk for trailers, and one of these operators is the one who stars in this famous legend. It is said that a long time ago, a trailer was destined for Mexicali to see the birth of his son. So he decided to speed up the pace. Between the curves, speeding, and the anxiety to get there, he lost control and veered off the road until he crashed with some stones or some rocks. But the story does not have a tragic end at this point, because he was still alive and there was little damage after the collision. He decided to ask for a ride. As no one on the way agreed to bring him closer to Mexicali, he decided to carry out Plan B, which would be to walk to his destination. It is said that he was like this for 3 days until he died, but his body was never located. The trailer was abandoned and no more was known about it. When someone travels through La Rumorosa at night, this driver is usually seen running and asking for a ride. But when someone agrees to it, he only says that he cannot leave his truck, although he delivers an envelope with money to be delivered to his wife, whose address is written on it. According to them, a trailer received the envelope with the money for the birth of their son, and when he arrived at the marked address, the wife no longer lived there. After asking about her whereabouts, he finally finds her and was surprised when he saw that she already had a small child. It could be their second child, right? But it's not like that, since the woman mentions that her husband died 5 years ago. This legend is known among the Guild of Drivers, but opinions are divided about whether it's true or not. One slope indicates that whoever does not deliver the money dies crashed into the stones of the road as a revenge of the afterlife. Myth or reality, the story circulates among trailers and inhabitants of the region, but it will not stop going through your mind when you drive through La Rumorosa. especially at night. What is a fact is that you have to drive with caution on this road, which is considered one of the most dangerous in the country. And that is basically the gist of that little urban legend. As the story says, the trailers or the people who drive these like semi trucks are the ones that seem to run into this ghost the most. And that's the simple task that he is trying to get done, is that he wants this money to go towards his child that is being born. And since the legend doesn't really specify if that's something that he was trying to do when he crashed and was trying to get people to give him a ride all the way to Mexicali, maybe it was an offer that he was making to the people driving these trucks before he ultimately passed away from trying to walk all the way to Mexicali. And I don't really know how far that is from La Rumorosa road, so I feel like if it took him 3 days of him walking along this road trying to get closer to Mexicali, I feel like it was not something that he could have walked, especially without any water or any food, anything to protect him from the elements. Of course, he was going to ultimately pass away, but it's even weirder that there was no possibility of him getting a ride over there. Like, not a single person agreed to in the 3 days that he was alive is pretty shocking to me, unless this road is full of people who are just in a rush. Of course, people who drive semi trucks with schedules, I feel like they are going to be the least to agree to stopping for somebody, because they are supposed to be at a place at a certain time, and of course they wouldn't risk being late or getting in trouble for picking somebody up on their way to a delivery. I feel like maybe that's why he had no luck getting a ride, just because those were the majority of the people driving through those roads. And as for anybody else who was driving just as, you know, a common citizen of the area, who knows why they wouldn't have stopped for him. And maybe somebody ended up taking his money if he was trying to send out this package with money for his unborn child, and then somebody was like, yeah, I'll deliver it, and then did him wrong by not ever handing it to his wife. So that last part about the story with the truck driver who ended up giving the money to the wife and finding out that he had been dead like for 5 years, I feel like there are so many stories with that kind of ending, but it never fails to scare me because of how mind-blowing it would be if you were in that position where you're just like, what do you mean they died? I just talked to them, or I just saw them, you know? And it's funny that they would go out of their way to do that, but not agree to give this guy a ride, you know? I feel like he ended up with unfinished business because he never got to make it to the birth of his child, and then he ended up passing away. Very sad, but also very eerie, and a little bit of a fun one as well, because I feel like a lot of these could potentially be made up, of course. That is very, very likely, and I just like learning about them anyway and hearing about these kinds of stories, even though they could possibly be fake. I know that because of that reason, I feel like people are okay with sharing them. Oops, my computer timed out. They're okay with sharing it amongst other people without feeling like they're kind of entertaining themselves with the death or these bad situations that people are put in. It makes it feel a little bit less like you're doing something bad by talking about these people's demise. I feel like that's why they kind of leave these things up in the air, like who knows if it's true, who knows if it's not true, you know, etc, etc. Anyways guys, I hope that you guys like those two stories. Let me know what you thought about each one of them, and if you know any more stories from Mexico that have to do with like some kind of road or highway. I know there are various that I have already covered here on my channel, but either way, let me know down in the comments below. I would love to hear your opinions and anything else you would like to share with me that you guys know about, or any other story. But that is going to be it for today's video, you guys. Thank you so much for making it all the way to this point of the video. And if you did, make sure to leave a little bus emoji. That way I know who stayed all the way to the end. And if you did, it means a lot that you stayed all the way to this point of the video, because not a lot of people do. Trust me, I've seen the analytics. And me and you are besties. And also, today's comment shout out goes to this person right here. Thank you so much for leaving a nice comment. As always, I really do appreciate it, and it really makes my day. And if you want to be the next comment shout out, all you have to do is leave me a nice comment down below, and that's it. Yeah guys, hopefully I will see you in my next video. Don't forget to stay safe and be kind. Bye bye.